Hey guys, it's Phoebe from Who's Phoebe and welcome back to another Doctor Who video. As you guys know, I am doing 24 days of Doctor Who, where I review 24 classic Doctor Who episodes, all from the classic era. You guys may have noticed that I start these intros differently every single time. There's not a particular reason for it, I just absolutely love starting my intros differently rather than just doing the same old thing. The whole "This is Phoebe from Who's Phoebe" will always remain the same, but after that, how I introduce myself and go ahead with the start of these videos will always be different. You will never know what you get each day. I think it kind of adds a kind of cool vibe to it. So if you've never seen my face on your screens before, please click that button and subscribe button and also click the notification bell to get notifications every single time I upload, because I really do appreciate the support. So today's review is The Ark in Space. I actually haven't watched this one. I did watch this quite recently, like a couple of days ago, so it is already fresh in my mind, and I can basically do a review on anything, on any Doctor Who story without having to watch it. But there are some stories I do have to watch in order to review them, like the Sontaran Experiment, which I will be watching. But yeah, so without further ado, let's get on with this review. Now this is an interesting story. Not just because this is Harry Sullivan's first adventure with the Doctor, but also because this is like the first appearance of the Wirren. Luckily, the Wirren has only ever been in classic Doctor Who once, and I call that very fortunate, because I feel like now, if Doctor Who decided one day to bring the Wirren back, it would look better than it did then. Because I don't know if you guys noticed, but when you watch The Ark in Space, the Wirren is basically scary bubble wrap. It's a shoddy effect, but it works. It works to achieve the purpose, and you do have to remember this is 70s Doctor Who we are talking about. It does start to improve in the 80s, but not so much. So yeah. Anyway, so I do really like this story because this is the Doctor properly going on adventures now. Yes, he will nip back to UNIT as and when is needed, but the Doctor has been so sick and tired of his exile, it's time for him to go in the cosmos. And when they land on the Ark, Sarah says, "One trip to the moon, just a little trip to the moon, you said, just to prove to Harry." And the Doctor's like, "Well, I didn't know he was going to start messing around with the helmet regulator." So basically, Harry caused them to land in the far future. This is basically what humans would do like many years later. Like when Earth begins to get too hot, they would build themselves a spaceship in space to literally put themselves on, maybe have a skeleton crew at first, or lucky people, and go from there. So yeah, I feel like this is really good, as well as not just a story but the futuristic story. I must admit though, I'm not very keen on the scary bubble wrap. I get it. It was 70s Doctor Who. They didn't have all the CGI Doctor Who has now. I get it. It's absolutely fine. It's fine. It's okay. It's as it is. I'm willing to overlook that fact, given the fact that this is 70s Doctor Who we're talking about. I still can't quite believe it myself that I'm actually saying that now. But I do really like Ark in Space. I think it's just such a fun 4-part story as well. Like, it's not just like Harry's first adventure, but it's like, because he's a new companion, because Sarah Jane's been travelling with the Doctor for a little bit at this point. So for us as viewers, we're looking at this adventure through Harry's eyes, which I actually really do love that element, because we're looking at this through Harry's eyes, because he's never been in the TARDIS before now. He never has experienced what the Doctor has before in the universe. He's been UNIT's medical officer for years, so, you know, this is a brand new thing for him. This is a brand new thing for him, seeing everything. So yeah, it's intriguing, I will tell you that much. I also like how in this episode the Doctor accidentally, by turning the power on the ship, wakes up the people running this ship, because there's someone called a med tech who, from what I understand, is a medical technician. Basically the person in charge of giving medical aid to anyone who might need it on the Ark. And I do like how this is called the Ark in space, like Noah's Ark. I know I am going a bit into the whole Jesus and God thing there, but I think that's a good kind of thing to point out, that the Ark in space is actually named after Noah's Ark, you know, 2 by 2 in the 2 by 2 the animals kind of thing. So I do like that. However, there are flaws with this story. There is a lot of flaws when it comes to the Tom Baker stories. Not a lot, like the robot doesn't have any flaws in it, but this one does particularly. Just because of the visual effects and everything. Because obviously we've got bubble wrap in this and you can literally see it wrap around an actor's hand. It does take the scare factor away a tad bit in this story. Not because of how it's portrayed, but mostly because if you didn't know it was bubble wrap, you'd think it was a bit more scary. But because this is bubble wrap, it is a tiny bit more on this, but it is less on the scare factor. So I do have to mark the scare factor down. However, bubble wrap aside, when Noah transforms into a full Wirren, as the Doctor calls them, it does actually get really scary, because you kind of miss the scary bubble wrap side of things. And this is interesting for me, because the Doctor knew something was up when he saw wires cut and he repaired them. And he knew that something had got into the system years ago. Like, this is years on the Ark. Like, they've slept... The people on the Ark have slept way too long. They've slept through their alarm system. So, it's intriguing. Not just as a thing, but also because it's also kind of... What's the word? Weird what's going on here. So yeah, that's also interesting. I do like how, though, the Doctor decides the best course of action is to lure the Wirren into the space shuttle, and once they're in there, destroy them. And it's actually Noah who turns into the big adult Wirren who does this. And I really like Harry Sullivan in this story as well, not just as a medic, but as a genuine companion, because we see this adventure through his eyes, not just the Doctor, but we see it through Harry Sullivan's eyes, and it's very interesting that way as well. I like how the writers decided that the viewers needed to see it from Harry's eyes, not Sarah Jane's eyes, or seeing it from the Doctor's perspective. We actually see it from Harry's perspective, which I really do love. It does give this story an interesting edge to it as well. I like how we get this confined space for the Doctor and his companions, like they have to sort out what is going on in the Ark, and I like the name. And I also like why the commander is called Noah, like Noah's Ark, so that actually makes the Ark Noah's Ark, but Noah's Ark in space. I think that is genius. I know a lot of people will disagree with me about that, like, you know, the whole Noah's Ark reference I've put in, but I did go to a religious primary school, and also I went to church 2 to 3 times a week, and we read the Bible pretty much every single time in Sunday school, like at the start of every single Sunday school session, and the first thing I ever learnt about was Noah's Ark, hence why I know the reference. I didn't need to explain that, but I felt like it needed an explanation. So this is why this is one of my favourite Doctor Who stories, not because of the name, but because of how good this is, minus the bubble wrap scene. I feel like this is a great story for any Doctor Who person or any new Whovian who wants to come in and have a look at some of the classic episodes. I totally recommend Ark in Space. It's such a good story. I love it. It's one, every time I start with the 4th Doctor, Ark in Space is always the obvious choice for me. It's perfect. But yeah, so I would actually totally recommend this story to any new Whovian. But I am a little bit concerned because last time I checked on iPlayer it said available for 10 months, so interesting. As is most of Series 12 on there, available for 10 months. So I feel like the Whoniverse is slowly going on BBC iPlayer, I don't know why. It's weird though, look, the 5th Doctor story is available for a year. The rest are available for a year. Weird. Anyway, overall I'd give this story a solid 10 out of 10. It is such a good story. It is such a good one. And yes, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up if you did, and make sure you click the red subscribe button down below, and also click the notification bell so you get notifications every single time I upload. And in the words of the 10th Doctor, and